Week 1 was truly insane. When Aaron Rodgers left for the New York Jets, there were a ton of questions about this division. But optimism for the New York Jets, which were killed in the most Jets way possible. And, while I was sitting back this week listening to some of the sports coverage, I was incredibly disappointed. There was a lot of post-game analysis that I just don't think a lot of these commentators on cable TV watch the games, and B, there's one particular narrative that was so transparently disproven, and none of the major hosts are addressing it, that I have to call it out. So that's what I'm going to talk about today on this episode of State of the North. We're going to talk about what happened last week and what it means now for each of these divisions, and a little bit of what this means for the NFL on this episode of State of the North, NFC edition. So, best thing you can do, if you want to support the channel, is to like and subscribe. I'm a nobody right now. You subscribe, maybe I can be somebody, and the message that I'm about to tell you in this video will be heard. So, first and foremost, I'm just going to start with the Minnesota Vikings and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, I picked the Minnesota to win. I figured after making TJ Hawkinson the highest paid tight end in history, that they would be fine at home. They still got a lot of those pieces. And you're playing against Tampa Bay. Yeah, Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield, failed Cleveland quarterback. This should be a breeze. You guys get it? You get it? They choked. Minnesota completely laid a goose egg at home. And the big story about this game was the fact that Kirk Cousins was the engine of your offense. He threw the ball 44 times. And you look at these rushing numbers. 41 yards on 17 carries. And 7 of those yards were Kirk Cousins. Funniest play that happened all game. The Minnesota Vikings were marching down the field. It's like they're getting towards the goal line, and Kirk Cousins scrambles out on a bootleg to try to run for yards. And if you saw that play, Kirk Cousins is not a running quarterback. He is not Justin Fields. He does not have wheels, so he should stay safely parked between the tackles. But This is the part of the video where I'm going to talk to you guys about the big thing that was disproven. Because you know who the Minnesota Vikings really, really could have used during that game? Dalvin Cook. But they lost. One common thread that was being talked about throughout the NFL offseason by a bunch of analytical gurus who have never actually paid attention to the games long enough to get outside their own skull, we're pushing a notion, a narrative, that running backs do not have value. That they do not have value, draft your 7th rounder, throw them behind the offensive line, and you'll be good to go. But guess what? Every team that had a bunch of drama at the running back position paid the price in week 1 today. Obviously, Minnesota, they lost to Dalvin Cook, but you know who else lost? Chargers, Austin Eckler. Remember all that drama? You won't extend him, won't pay him, even though you just gave Justin Herbert all that money. They lost. New York Giants, Saquon Barkley was forced to sign a contract that was basically a glorified franchise tag in all but name only. You know what happened? He lost. The Bengals forced Joe Mixon to take a pay cut. They lost. Jim Irsay for the Colts would literally rather pay to move a dead whale than pay their running back. And you know what happened? They lost too. Furthermore, the Buffalo Bills, they lost their running back on a jet ski accident. You know what they could have really used? A running back. Because guess what? Josh Allen could really use one of those. So, he doesn't turn the ball over 4 times. And even Kansas City, the king of the disposable running back, realized that without Travis Kelce, you need a running game. And you lost. You lost. List game by game, team by team. If you had a bunch of drama with your running back in the offseason, you paid the price. But you know who did look good? Not these. Well, these guys did. technically, because first off, if you're playing the Denver Broncos, I gotta address this. If you're playing the Denver Broncos, you only need to score 17 points. The Dallas Cowboys are just a buzzsaw. So like they cut Ezekiel Elliott, but they have Tony Pollard. They have a star running back they're turning to. Furthermore, the Las Vegas Raiders, you know, again, Russell Wilson's washed. You don't need that much offense to beat the Broncos. But the what I was saying, the two teams that drafted in the high round for a running back got clowned. The Falcons and the Lions got a lot of cheese because, oh yeah, you drafted Bijan Robinson and Jameer Gibbs. Whoopity doopity doo. Don't you know the analytics, man? Don't you know the analytics? Analytics say that this is not a good decision. And you know what happened? Both those teams won. And those guys made contributions. Like Jameer Gibbs looked really speedy, man. He's a weapon. Because you know why? Because if you just getting great players will help you have great units. Players make the difference in this game. It doesn't matter what position they are. You need weapons. So this notion that just because you have a certain position that you are inherently less valuable is stupid. The only position that should be held above all the others is quarterback because of how many times you touch the ball. Everything else is kind of in this land where you want talented guys. You want talented guys. Anyway, you can get a talented guy, you want talented guys. So I hope that after this week, this notion that you don't need to pay a running back is totally squashed. However, more realistically, the NFL probably is going to ignore that, and all their friends in the media, they're going to ignore that. But yeah, he who does not pay running back paid the price. So on a different note too, Jordan Addison looked good. Which, hey, if you get another guy to go with Jordan, go with Justin Jefferson, that would be a great thing for the Vikings. The defense was not that bad. I mean, it's bad when you say Baker Mayfield wasn't already on the drives, but Minnesota, I wouldn't be too down if I were a Minnesota fan right now because there is some potential here. Obviously, you weren't gonna go undefeated in those close games like you did last year. So you were bound to lose one of those, and it just sucks that it was the season opener and the home opener, because that can really kill your momentum. But hey, maybe you got a good bounce back game, because maybe you can resurrect Kirk Thuggins. Oh dear God! Oh dear God! Oh dear God! Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Woo! Kirk Cousins prime time against the Eagles. This happened last year, and the Eagles destroyed him. Hey, Vikings fans, starting 0-2 wouldn't be that bad. I mean, the Bengals did last year, and you also have a LSU wide receiver from that 2019 Super Team. You'll be fine, right? Right? Now let's talk about the marquee divisional game between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. There were a lot of expectations for the Bears this year. This would finally be the year, and I thought it would be the year too. But it was a blowout. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about just look at these numbers real quick. Jordan Love and Justin Fields. Jordan Love 15 for 27, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. Justin Fields 4 sacks, 24 for 37, 219. Wait, hold on. Did I say Justin Fields? I'm sorry, guys. That's a mistake. I gotta do better than this. Now, there we go. Yeah, Justin Fields did not throw the ball deep. He was constantly under pressure, and Jordan Love looked good. So there are a ton of people saying that now this means Jordan Love is the guy, and all problems are solved. And I don't think this is the game to judge either of these quarterbacks. Now, what this does prove is, first and foremost, I had a theory during my NFC North prediction video that the Chicago Bears would have to win by shootout, mainly because of not having, Bears. On a different note, Bears, you really let me down. I bet big on you for my office bracket, and you ruined it. The saying is bear down, not be down by so much that you give your fans depression. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the bars in the greater Chicago area already sold out of alcohol. It was not a good night for a Bears fan, but I think Roquan Smith leaving was a bigger story than a lot of people are giving credit for. Now, there's some Bears fans really optimistic about the defense because of all these mid-level acquisitions. And I didn't believe it. Mainly because if you want to have a superstar units, you need superstar players. Unless you are Bill Belichick, you are not going to concoct some master defense using a bunch of plug and play guys, so to speak. There's a reason they didn't get extensions from their teams in the end. It's obviously early to say there, but the long and short story of this is that the Bears roster stinks, top to bottom. I mean, go down the list, position by position. Running back, offensive line, defensive back, you name a position, Green Bay was just straight up better. So this has a lot to do with Brian Gutekunst being a good GM. You know, other than the whole maybe drafting Jordan Love, maybe that wasn't a mistake. Who knows on that? But this is just an indictment on the Bears. You know what makes even more of an indictment on the Bears? The fact that two of your big trade acquisitions just didn't perform. Chase Claypool literally did nothing. Zero. Just look at that. Zero. They gave up the second round pick last year for him, which was basically a first round pick because they, got the number 1 overall pick. Like, it's not great. And DJ Moore, you got to get more out of DJ Moore. So is this a Justin Fields thing? Is this a scheme thing? Or was this maybe Joe Barry for the Packers actually dialing up a great scheme for a young quarterback? Honestly, that's hard to say too. But if you're a Bears fan, to be honest with you, I'd be concerned, but also a little bit realistic because the whole notion that Justin Fields is going to be an MVP candidate was just a hot take topic, so that the press, when they got nothing better going on, can kind of ping pong that around and say, "Oh, really? Won't we?" And the answer is he will not be because he's a young quarterback developing. He was never going to win MVP this year. I mean, could he still? I guess, but that's not going to happen. Pump the brakes. So pump the brake up, Bears fans on the hype train. Just pump the brakes. Your roster's in a rebuild. So if you have any hope of doing well this season, it's going to be on Justin Fields. So maybe try to focus on making sure he has support and get him some good offensive line. And maybe that would help a little bit. But your defense, the Bears defense was not great, and I doubt it's going to be a superstar unit. I don't think realistically, if this defense is going to snap to life, it's probably not going to be till later in the season. Which again, I still don't even know on that. But again, it's Bears fans, it's week 1. You'll just have to wait and see what happens. So next week is a must win for you. Because week 3 you play Kansas City. You can't lose to your next opponent. But I want to talk about the Lions a little bit. Because obviously you're a Green Bay Packers fan. I was pretty pessimistic on you, mainly because Jordan Love there's a lot of questions. Jordan Love is great. That is he great because that roster is great or not? But with the Lions, I think I got a little bit more it's just continuing a trend we saw last year with the Lions. So the Kansas City game went exactly the way I thought it would. The Lions were able to win because there were a lot of parallels between that Golden State Warriors team that won the championship last year and Kansas City won it this year. Think about it. Listen to me on this. You had a blend of older guys, older veteran Hall of Fame guys, and a bunch of young guys, and kind of like this 2-track thing where they're going to have to kind of blend together and develop as the season goes along. During the season, you have your star player, Draymond Green for the Warriors, Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs, start a podcast the year they win the trophy. And the year after, The offseason was filled with issues. Draymond Green punched a teammate. So did Travis Kelce, both of them at practice. And furthermore, there was contract issues with Jordan Poole for the Warriors, and this year with Chris Jones. And on top of it, the Lions were deceptively good in their week one opening games. They took the Eagles and the 49ers blow to blow when they didn't make the playoffs. This Lions team was better than a lot of people gave credit to, and they played a decent game. This was not a clean game by any means. That offensive line needs to improve because Kansas City didn't have Chris Jones. There's no reason that Jared Goff should have been under as much pressure as he was. But I mean, he still played okay. So the Lions usually don't beat the opposing team and the Zebras. It was a really weird game to watch because that guy's draft was jumping off sides all the time. You're allowed to, and Kansas City offensive lineman, you are definitely allowed to sumo wrestle the opponent into the ground, which is not great at all. So, but hey, you know what? Kansas City Chiefs fans are going to be talking about an asterisk. There are no asterisks. Wins are wins, losses are losses. Because you know what happens? You can scream about those asterisks all you want during the aftermath. But as time fades, those asterisks fade to history. And all that's left is the final result. That's all that matters. Now, does that mean that everything is great in Detroit? No. First off, your rookies, your second-year players did step up, and that is great to see. Brian Branch was a real feel-good story. Dude was not drafted in the first round. Lions trade up for him in the second round, and instead of going home after not getting picked on the draft night, he stayed to the second day to walk up on stage. He took a photo with the Lions fans. And he had the pick 6. Brad Holmes has been killing it on these drafts. So the Lions are just flooded with a bunch of young talent, and now that they've won this game, they're all probably drinking the Kool-Aid. Now the defense looked good, but I'm a little hesitant on saying that they fixed all their issues on the defensive end. Just because even without Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes still did some damage on him. But I did think there was some improvement on there, which is good. Last year you just need a passable defense. The other thing too, you were clearly missing wide receivers. I thought the Lions really should have tried to keep DJ Chark. I thought he was a good weapon for him. And you could tell that they're down a wide receiver. Jamison Williams needs to come back healthy, because if he doesn't and it's just Amon-Ra St. Brown, this passing game could suffer. Or, maybe Ben Johnson could just run the ball sometimes. That would be smart too. Ford Field, as I mentioned in my prediction video, the season tickets are already sold out. Like a long time ago, there's waiting lists. Ford Field is going to be absolutely hyped, and it may be an actual Lions in over there. These are not the same old Lions. I think the Lions are legitimate contenders for the playoffs and even a Super Bowl, but you gotta get better. You gotta get Jameson Williams back. You gotta have those wide receivers play better, and you need to lean more on that run game. David Montgomery looked good. You gotta get Jahmyr Gibbs the ball more too. The running game was your best asset, and on 4th and 2, you decided to throw the ball. That's ridiculous. You gotta lean on the run game. That offensive line is the best in the league. Lean on it. But yeah, this is how this week went for the NFC North. Now the standings are just like this. The Lions are 1-0 against the Super Bowl champion, and the Packers are 1-0 against a division opponent. So if anybody is to be optimistic, it's the people on the division. Now, let's look at week 2 for a moment, because obviously the Vikings there's a really good chance of them going 0-2 to start the season, because they really needed that Tampa Bay win. I kind of penciled that in for them as their win to help kind of give some momentum to the season. Listen, the Philadelphia Eagles did look vulnerable against the Patriots. The Vikings stand a chance, but it's Kirk Cousins' prime time. And, again, you have no run game. So Kirk Cousins, if you're going to win, it's because of Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. And week 2 for the Packers. Bleh. The Chicago Bears is a must-win game, because week 3 you play Kansas City, and it's going to be It's not going to be great to start a season 0-3. So you got to win that game. I think week 2 for the Packers is going to be the time where we start to know if Jordan Love is the guy. The Falcons have a lot of talent. They got Jeff Okudah, Jesse Bates, just to name a couple. But they have a lot of pieces. They got a lot of good pieces to try to match up with that Green Bay roster. You could tell for that Green Bay Chicago game that the roster was just a complete mismatch. It was a complete mismatch for the entire roster. So if Jordan Love can play against this tougher defense and ball, then maybe he's the guy. But until then, we just don't know enough about him. So these are my official predictions for this week. Wait a moment. That's not right. Sorry, mistake here. I had this is what my predictions were in my original prediction video, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think the only real change here is that the Bears are going to beat the Buccaneers. I really do. I think the Bears are going to win that game. Mainly because Baker Mayfield, I've watched too many games of him in Cleveland where just as you're starting to believe in him and things are going to go okay, you face plant. So I'm not as optimistic as them, but all the other predictions I completely agree with. I think it's very unlikely that both the Lions and the Packers start the season 2-0. But hey, you know what? I looked at the schedule again, and you know who the Packers play week 3? The Saints in Lambeau. You know who the Lions play week 3? At home, the Falcons. So if the NFC South completely collapses and is terrible like last year, there's a chance that for week 4, Thursday Night Football, Lambeau Field, that we get a truly special game between two undefeated Titans. Is that going to happen? Probably not. You know, who knows? Maybe Jordan Love loses 1-2 of those games. Maybe the Lions also lose a game. But anyways, Packers fans and Lions fans should be the most optimistic. If I had to pick one, I definitely say the Lions, just because I think that the story of that game was more about the roster than just Jordan Love. So we'll have to wait and see, though. Anyways, guys, if you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe. It's the best thing you can do. Because, again, I am a nobody. If you do that, maybe I'll be a somebody. It'll help get a little more traction. So anyways, thanks for watching this episode of State of the North.